The actions I'm taking are not only lawful, they're the kinds of actions taken by every single Republican president and every single Democratic president for the past half-century. And to those members of Congress who question my authority to make our immigration system work better, or question the wisdom of me acting where Congress has failed, I have one answer. Pass a bill. I want to work with both parties to pass a more permanent legislative solution. And the day I sign that bill into law, the actions I take will no longer be necessary.
All right, folks, joining us now, I'm very happy to say, is Ari Fleischer, former White House spokesman for President George W. Bush and president of Ari Fleischer Sports Communications. Hello, sir.
Well, great to be with you again.
Great to talk to you again. You know, I got Keith Jackson coming up in the next hour, so you might want to tune in for that.
Well, you should get him on right now and get the upgrade.
No, stop. All right, let me ask you. Is he telling the truth when he said every president, and
No.
I think he specifically at one point mentioned George W. Bush, has done what he's done?
No, what he's trying to do is confuse the public by saying that because other presidents have, like him, signed executive orders, that all executive orders are the same. The difference is when Reagan and Bush signed executive orders on immigration, they did it to make the executive order comply with legislative intent. What President Obama did last night was in defiance of legislative intent. And it's entirely different. Presidents were always going to be frustrated by congressional action or inaction. It doesn't mean they can take the law into their own hands.
What do you think the Republican response should be here? Because we've heard all kinds of scenarios, and we've also heard today that they've gone home and they still don't know how they're going to respond to this.
Well, one, they need to wait until Republicans take control. The Democrats still run the Senate, and there's little to no leverage Republicans have until they take control of the Senate. At that point, then, what they need to do is do what they used to do in the old days, where they put riders on appropriation bills that were narrowly crafted that would shut down portions of that agency if Congress didn't get its way. That's called the power of the purse. What Republicans have just not handled the legislative tracks properly is we continue to overreach and we shut down the entire government over something isolated or focused. And we wonder why it backfires on us. You need to fund everything except the narrow portions of government that apply here. And the real hope is that we get a few Democrats who get on board, and it's a bipartisan effort to do this. And I really do think you've got Democrats like Joe Manchin in West Virginia and Claire McCaskill in Missouri, who this is very uneasy politics for them, and they don't like it. And we have a chance to pick them up if we don't overreach and we do things wise to use leverage where leverage can be applied.
Let me ask you about Gruber-gate, as they're calling it. Are you shocked at what you've heard and what the response has been? You know, the denial, Nancy Pelosi saying, I never heard of him, I don't know who he is, and Obama poo-pooing him, but of course Obama said he used to steal ideas from him.
Yeah. You know, what really gets to me on this, frankly, is because I'm an old press secretary, is the lack of coverage by the networks and the scant coverage in the New York Times. You know, this is where if this was somebody who was a part of the Dick Cheney Energy Task Force, for example, who spoke that way about the American people, was paid millions of dollars, and said we hid what we did because that was the only way to get it done, the mainstream media I'd be suffering from a feeding frenzy every time I took to that podium. And here it's basically touch and go. A little dutiful reporting here, and then they go right on to the next. And it's one of the reasons that Democrats can continue to get away with this is because they're not subject to the media uproar that happens if a Republican were to do something like this.
And do Republican presidential candidates understand that? Do they understand that when they're running against the media in addition to their opponent?
Oh, boy, do they. And, you know, that's frankly one of the smart things the chairman of the RNC, Reince Priebus, has done. You're not going to see anybody from the mainstream media, again, moderate a Republican presidential debate. You're going to have much more conservative columnists, people who understand and think like Republican candidates, and understand what the issues are that Republican primary voters want to spend their time on, not contraception and things that George Stephanopoulos wants to spend his time on. So, yeah, I do think they have that recognition, but here's the problem. I can complain about the press because I'm not in the active ring anymore. But if you're running for office, you really should not complain about the press. You need to spend your time outsmarting the press.
Gotcha. Ari, great to talk to you, sir, as always. Thank you so much.
Steve, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Take care. The great Ari Fleischer, ladies and gentlemen. And we want to hear from you folks. Should President Obama give amnesty to illegals? Go to newsmax.com/poll and vote.